Hey, Tim Frisch with A Frisch Perspective here. My previous video was called Two Views of COVID, where I showed a lot of John MacArthur's presentation from the December 6th Sunday evening service, where he talks pretty extensively about his view of the COVID situation. In this video, I want to continue to show what he said that night, but I have to say that that video was called Two Views of COVID, and the comments section of that video really showed that there are two very different views of the COVID situation. That really came out in your comments. I really do appreciate people's comments. The main thing I ask is that you really try to be constructive and helpful in what you're saying. I generally don't delete comments unless you're attacking people or just saying things that I find are not really helpful to the conversation. But if you're really sincerely trying to help, we want to hear different points of view. The theme of this video really is making sense of the COVID situation, and to make the point that we're all really hearing a lot of different information and we're trying to do our best to make sense out of it. And so I want you to hear more of what John MacArthur, pastor of Grace Community Church, says in his worldview, how he makes sense of this situation. And particularly here, he's talking about why would government leaders take the actions that they are if the coronavirus situation is being blown out of proportion. So here's more of what John MacArthur said.
Now, I'm not saying this doesn't exist. It does. I'm not saying it can't be serious. It can be. It can be anything from the flu to very serious with those who have other prevailing illnesses. But to completely destroy businesses, schools, children, young people, education, churches, and everything else in our society, every normal course of life, is an overreaction. And that is not my conclusion. That is the conclusion of 10,000 experts, scientists. That's a fair number. And I'm saying this to you because I don't want to be accused of putting you in jeopardy. People have said about me that I am mocking COVID, and people on the internet say all kinds of things about me with regard to the fact that I'm going to be killing people because we're meeting as a church. We are not naive about the reality that everybody's going to die, right? Yeah, and there are lots of ways that can happen. But at the same time, we have believed from the very beginning that the truth is that this is not a disease that kills everyone, and the statistics are in 99.998 people survive this. And we have simply tried to follow what has become apparent week in and week out. And it started pretty early when it became clear that this was being misrepresented. The question comes up in conversation, why are they doing this? I'm not sure that everybody has the same motive. It can be fear. It can be about power. Can be about control, can largely be political, trying to completely tear down the existing systems that we're used to. Power has always been that which maddens people to do the most damage of anything that exists in human ambition. Power is a brutal master. Why they seek power, why they want to overturn things, that's for every person's motive, perhaps nuanced a different way than the rest of them, but it comes down to power and control, changing the world to fit them. This is a collective group, some known and some unknown. And they have done something that's never been done in human history. They have made this global. That in itself is very interesting because now we are a global world. And that is a setup that we've been waiting for through redemptive history since the Lord promised that there would come in the future an Antichrist who would have a global government. This is the first time in my lifetime that we literally have such power over people globally that we can shut them down so they can't function. Cancel culture can come to you. This suits the world of Antichrist. As you look at the book of Revelation, there's the mark of the beast, the number, and if you don't have that, you don't buy, you don't sell, you don't exist. Everything about you, they know, the people who have access to all your data. They know all of it. You can go out of existence virtually any moment somebody decides that. This is the kind of world that appears to be perfectly suited for the Antichrist to come, bring a certain amount of peace. The world falls at his feet. He is the instrument of Satan. And of course, all hell breaks loose. And in that time of the Great Tribulation, God's judgment comes, at the end of which Christ returns. I don't want to say the Lord is coming soon, but I will say this, he's coming sooner than he's ever been before. The Bible says in the end times there will be lawlessness. And there is lawlessness and an escalating lawlessness and an effort to create more lawlessness by taking restraints away. This is a world that could find itself in such absolute chaos that the right satanic leader who promises to fix everything could be given the title of King of the World. That Antichrist, aided by the false prophet, is what we see in the book of Revelation. Many years ago, I used to think there were signs of the return of Christ being imminent, and there always have been, and we always know he can come at any day or any hour. But it seems that this is the world that we never knew could exist. We have the kind of weaponry that could destroy a third of the population, a fourth of the population, as we see in the book of Revelation. We have the kind of technology that can literally erase people out of existence. So it's just up to us to be sure that we're looking at the signs of the times, for sure. But I think we have to be aware of the fact that we aren't being told the truth. And that's not surprising, is it? Satan is a liar, and he establishes his kingdom on lies. So be discerning, be thoughtful. The Lord has been very gracious to us here. We've been meeting together like this. And for months and months and months. And the health department was here a couple of weeks ago to say, there's no outbreak at Grace Church. How is that possible if what they say is so? We are a microcosm of the world. The Lord has even given us protection from the Supreme Court. Twice, one case in New York and now Thursday, another case in California, that whatever this virus is, it does not overpower First Amendment rights. So we are meeting, but not in a foolish or irresponsible way, with as much knowledge and thoughtfulness as we can have. And so I want to encourage you that, spiritually speaking, this is the best place you could be. And physically, I don't think we're a threat.
So in listening to everything that he has to say, I know that there are a lot of you who will disagree with some of what he said, maybe with all of that he said. There are others of you that would completely agree with what he's saying there, and that really comes down to how we look at things. Again, we're all trying to make sense of the world around us and process the information that we're being given. So you can see his worldview coming out, him talking about the end times there. I will say, though, that when it comes to making sense of this situation, and I really believe people are sincerely trying to understand things from different sides here, a lot comes down to our own experiences. And so I was talking about this with my wife this morning. So if you've experienced a situation where someone had COVID, or maybe you've seen a lot of people with COVID, and they have been seriously ill as a result, maybe even have passed away, that's going to definitely affect your perception of the situation. On the other hand, what would it be like for a person who's lost their income or their livelihood because of government restrictions and shutdowns? And that will give you a very different perspective on the situation and how it has affected you. So that's something we have to keep in mind. I think we all have biases. Yes, even Pastor MacArthur has certain biases, but the reality is we all do, and we're all trying to make sense out of the situation as best we can. One statistic that Pastor MacArthur gives that I think is very interesting and something to keep in mind is how many people are actually dying as a result of COVID-19. And we have to remember that actually the vast majority of people do not die because of this disease. Now, he has made it very clear, and I want to make it clear here, that's not saying we shouldn't take it seriously. But the question is, what should our response be as a culture in light of the actual statistics? And if it is not a highly deadly disease for most people, then what are the actions that make the most sense, that are going to be the most effective and the most helpful to our culture and society as a whole? I think that's really some important questions we have to answer. Anyway, we're all trying to make sense of this. Again, feel free to leave your comments in the comments section below. I know people feel very passionately on different sides of this issue. Just make sure that you're really trying to be understanding and helpful to conversation and furthering all of our understanding as to how to best assess and look at everything. Also, I just want to encourage us, if you are a Christian, remember we're called by the Lord to love one another. So make sure you seek to love and edify one another as you're discussing this. Thank you so much, though, for listening to this report and hearing some of my thoughts brought to you from A Frisch Perspective.